A man, as usual, arrived late to work, not noticing that the security guard seemed different today. He also failed to see the bloodstains on the elevator doors, focused solely on clocking in. As he entered the office, he walked past 2 corpses on the floor without a second glance and quickly made his way to his desk. No sooner had he sat down than his manager summoned him to the office. Desmond, accustomed to being reprimanded for his frequent tardiness, was surprised when the manager didn't scold him today. Instead, the manager was relentlessly sharpening a pencil, a menacing look in his eyes. Desmond, bewildered, glanced down and noticed a colleague lying on the floor, covered in pencils. This sight terrified him. Before he could react, the manager threw him out of the office with great force. It was clear that the manager had issues, but it wasn't just him. As Desmond turned around, he realized that all his colleagues were acting bizarrely. Terrified, he bolted out of the office, with his crazed co-workers in hot pursuit. Using his wits, Desmond managed to temporarily evade them by hiding out of sight. Catching his breath, he turned around to see another colleague still diligently working away. Desmond approached, hoping for an explanation, but was met with a barrage of insults. The colleague then took a sip from a drink on the desk. Desmond suddenly remembered seeing many of those drinks yesterday and wondered if they were related to this madness. Without time to dwell on it, Desmond accidentally tripped over a cable on the floor. His colleague, who had been editing videos all day without saving, exploded in rage, his strength seemingly multiplied. He threw Desmond several meters across the room and pinned him against the wall. As Desmond struggled for breath, he grabbed a wooden plank nearby and struck his colleague hard. To his surprise, the blow was fatal, and the colleague collapsed, lifeless. Desmond, still reeling from the encounter, slipped into a room and thought about how everyone who went crazy seemed to be working nonstop. A light bulb went off in his head, and he decided to pretend to be busy working. To his relief, this strategy actually worked, allowing him to escape the office. However, just as he reached the exit, Desmond remembered that his crush, Samantha, was still inside. Gathering his courage, he headed back in. Fortunately, Samantha was in her private office, wearing headphones and oblivious to the chaos. But Desmond noticed the black drink on her desk, the same one everyone else had consumed. He intended to remove it, but accidentally spilled it all over the desk. It seemed Samantha hadn't drunk much of it yet, as she hadn't fully transformed. However, Desmond's bumbling attempts to fix the situation only irritated her, resulting in another round of him getting beaten up. As the situation spiraled out of control, Desmond had no choice but to knock her out. To prevent Samantha from transforming again, Desmond tied her up. When Samantha woke up, she was confused and unaware of what had happened. Desmond intended to leave the building and explain everything later. However, as he reached the stairwell, he saw a horde of zombies rushing up. He quickly retreated and hid in a nearby room. Just as he closed the door, he heard movement behind him. A man suddenly grabbed him, but it turned out to be his colleague Murad, who hadn't drunk the black beverage. After confirming they were both safe, they decided to team up. Once the zombies cleared the office, Desmond, Murad, and the now conscious Samantha cautiously approached the stairwell again. But the scene they encountered was even more terrifying, forcing them to find another route. Unfortunately, the elevator was out of order. The ventilation duct seemed like a good option, but after struggling to fit Samantha inside for a while, they gave up and decided to break a window instead. Desmond grabbed a printer and smashed it against the glass. To their dismay, the glass remained intact and triggered the security system, instantly sealing the entire building with steel shutters. Since this was a weapons manufacturing company, it had the highest level of security. Now, only the company's executives could unlock it, meaning they had to traverse zombie-infested floors to reach the top. Seeing the zombies attacking each other, Desmond recalled his previous idea. The trio pretended to be zombies and successfully reached the Human Resources Department. The women there had all turned into zombies and were viciously attacking an elderly man, creating a horrifying scene. Desmond quickly came up with a plan and used the office intercom to announce a fake company holiday, which successfully distracted the zombies and saved the old man. Now, they only needed to pass through the sales department to reach the executive offices. However, the employees here were unusually aggressive, likely due to the stress from dealing with customers. With no other choice, they braced themselves and prepared to fight their way through. The group entered the storage room and improvised some makeshift weapons. With the number of zombies overwhelming, they reluctantly had to free Samantha temporarily. Armed and ready, the four of them nervously stepped outside. Despite the challenging situation, their combat skills proved effective, even against the intelligent zombies. Samantha, especially, was empowered by the energy drink, easily taking down several strong zombies. In the midst of the chaos, a survivor lunged at Desmond, desperately asking if he had consumed the energy drink. Murad, mistaking the survivor for a zombie, instinctively swung his axe, killing him instantly. It was Murad's first time taking action, and although it was a tragic mistake, Desmond didn't blame him. After all, Murad's intention was to save him. As they looked around at the sprawled bodies of zombies, the group was astonished by their own newfound strength. However, there was no time to dwell on it. They finally reached the door to the executive office. The executives, suspecting they were infected, were reluctant to let them in. However, their concerns were short-lived as a janitor calmly opened the door, leading to an awkward moment of eye contact between both parties. Thus, the group managed to enter the office smoothly. Tensions rose immediately upon entering, and one of the executives sternly said, "This is a weapons manufacturing company. Absolutely no violence allowed." Despite the odd phrasing, both sides lowered their weapons. Through their conversation with the executives, they learned that the problem indeed stemmed from the drinks, which were intended for the military. However, the executives had no idea why they ended up in the company. While they were discussing, the zombie manager, accompanied by zombie employees, arrived at the door. Their furious expressions suggested they had often been oppressed by the executives. The enraged manager roared at the executive, demanding a salary increase to $20,000 for all employees, or else there would be dire consequences. The executive sneered dismissively, saying, "We don't have money, but we do have a life to give." This remark completely infuriated the manager, who then led the employees in an aggressive assault, leaving the executive in a panic. Desmond quickly used a desk to barricade the door. Just then, the old man stepped out, holding a drink. Hearing the manager's words, he wanted to join the cause as a fellow worker, but as soon as he stepped out, the manager took him down, showing that he hadn't yet turned into a zombie. With the zombie horde about to break in, Desmond and Murad quickly retreated into the inner office. The executive managed to take down one zombie with a shotgun, but there were too many, forcing him to fall back. Two board members were immediately overrun and devoured, and the horde broke through the door. Despite having a shotgun, the executive couldn't hold back the endless wave of zombies. As he was about to reload, the manager suddenly chopped off his hand. After finishing off the executive, the manager wasn't satisfied. The small company couldn't satiate his ambition. He wanted to use the executive's severed hand to unlock the security system and spread the infection outside. He left a few lackeys behind to deal with Desmond and Murad. Desmond swiftly grabbed the shotgun and, with a single shot, took down all of them. Although the immediate crisis was averted, Samantha's condition was still dire, and they had to find the antidote fast. They took her to the R&D department and ran into the head scientist. Under Desmond's intense questioning, the scientist revealed the truth. The drink was originally a military-grade product meant to enhance soldier performance. However, this batch was defective. Another scientist, disgruntled over not getting a raise, had given it to the employees as an act of revenge. Thankfully, there was an antidote, but it was stored in the warehouse downstairs, which was now overrun with zombies. To save Samantha, Desmond and Murad headed to the exhibit hall and armed themselves with weapons from the display cases. Fully equipped, they made their way to the warehouse, where they saw the manager brainwashing the zombies. The manager spotted them through the surveillance cameras, and a large horde of zombies began to swarm towards them. They quickly found a place to hide. The zombies searched everywhere, while Desmond used some of the tainted drink to distract them. As the zombies gathered around the drink, Desmond seized the opportunity and opened fire, taking down a large number of them in an instant. With Desmond and Murad working in perfect coordination, they fought off the remaining zombies and finally managed to locate the antidote. Just then, the manager suddenly appeared in a mech suit and fired a cannon without warning. Desmond was blasted away but fortunately was not seriously hurt. The mech's firepower was overwhelming, forcing Desmond and Murad to retreat. Knowing they had the antidote, Desmond tossed it to Murad, instructing him to save Samantha while he stayed behind to hold off the manager. Desmond taunted the manager, trying to draw his attention away. However, as he ran, a zombie attacked him, and the manager had him in his sights. Just then, Samantha, having taken the antidote, arrived just in time to save Desmond. The three of them fled while setting up explosives along their path. When the manager entered the designated blast zone, Desmond hit the detonator, but nothing happened. The remote had failed because they hadn't placed the detonators in the explosives. The manager smugly enjoyed his apparent victory. Desmond, in a last-ditch effort, threw a tripwire mine onto the ground. It was a desperate gamble. Miraculously, the unlucky manager stepped on the mine. A massive explosion followed, obliterating the manager and allowing the trio to escape the building. With the nightmare finally over, Desmond and Samantha began their new life together, with Murad witnessing their happiness.